My favorite topic of this year, I would say, is AI. I'm trying not to become yet another person who became AI filled and writing about that. But most importantly is I'm trying to show engineering leaders and also everyone in tech that we I don't think we should be afraid of the future, terrified, and we shouldn't think that we're being replaced because um, human judgment is not going away. Our skills, they're not going away. No matter what everyone or like what many people are trying to tell us. I just don't believe that we're going to need less engineers, less managers. But what I'm trying to demonstrate is that it still doesn't matter. It doesn't mean that you just sit and wait it out. You still need to adapt. Like you're gonna get replaced if all you do is the mechanical work. For example, as an engineering leader, you can be the person that like a talking head. Somebody brings you data and reports. You conduct and facilitate the meetings. You prepare reports for your higher ups, and that's all you do. Sometimes, like there are people like that. Unfortunately, I don't think it's like a bad position to be, but that's the mechanics. Mechanics are gonna get automated and replaced, and there's a lot of things you can do beyond that we didn't have time to do before in many teams because there were too many mechanics. And this applies across the board. That's what I'm trying to write about.
So no fear, and probably need more engineers than we do right now. I agree with that. How do we actually go and create new engineers? Because I think the first engineers to go right now, we need more senior engineers and less junior engineers. At least that's what it feels like. How do we still create those future engineering managers then?
Great question. Again, I don't think it's a new problem because before, as an engineering leader, you faced the same problem. You wanted only senior engineers typically, but it was always a very limited resource. So you were hiring junior engineers and you were looking for things for them to do where they don't break things too much. And they were doing things that mid-level and senior engineers didn't want to do. I don't think that changes much. The reason to hire junior people stays the same. The type of work they would do stays the same conceptually. But it would be different now because instead of, I don't know, refactoring some service nobody cares about for them to get some practice, they would maybe vibe code something. And you would teach them how to, I don't know, use codecs for review so that they don't do stupid mistakes, or you give them these skills that would improve their code. So in my opinion, it actually gets easier to work with junior engineers on one hand. The other thing is pre-AI, at least in our team, one of the reasons why we were hiring junior engineers is because they always had different perspectives. Because I'm in my 40s now, since this year, and I can see how my mindset is changing. I hope I'm not set in my ways completely, but somebody who's still in college, they're like the sponge. They are trying everything new. They don't have to think about the consequences. They don't have to evaluate. They're like, oh, this is a cool thing. My friend is using it. I'm going to try it. Oh, I read a post about this. I'm going to try it. And I'm trying to do more of that myself. But hey, I have so many things to do, right? So I think this is another reason why we still need to hire junior engineers. And when we do, then they will learn and become senior engineers and so on. But yeah, there's this debate that we don't need engineers anymore, 10x engineer and so on. My perspective is that it's not about seniority, actually. It's about this elusive thing called agency that you can't really hire for, but that makes the whole difference.
So I was going to ask you exactly that question. I see so many engineers out there who are just, I'd say, standard full stack engineers. They've done Node.js, PHP backend. They've done all the standard front ends, and that's sort of their skill repository for 5 or 10 or 15 years. And there seems to be so many of them out there. So what actually is the skill that you should be learning? I mean, it's agency, but how do you learn?
Great question. And I apologize for my ums. I'm trying to teach myself not to do this. Great question. There is no definition for agency where it becomes a controlled variable. I think we all understand as engineering leaders how people with agency act and behave, but I personally haven't found a way to interview, for example, or have a trial task to actually see if someone has agency. But and that's what the workshop is about. There are things as engineering leaders we know and we can communicate about. Because pre-AI, again, engineers were mostly focused on one particular area in the software development process. And the workshop was precisely about that. If you have, for example, a ticket in Jira or whatever system you use, and you want this ticket to be completed to the point of pull request that is merged, you actually have to, your team has to go through 15 steps, because somebody has to look for similar tickets, somebody has to find the documentation, reproduce the bug, for example, if it's a bug. If it's a feature, somebody has to think it through, create the PRD, create the design. Then after like 4 or 5 steps, somebody goes and implements, and things don't stop there, because then somebody else has to do QA, have the business analyst or whatnot have to look at the actual implementation and whether it matches the PRD. Somebody has to do code review, maybe multiple passes of code review. I don't know, tests needs to be written. So many things happen before the pull request gets merged. So even though agency is hard to measure and hard to see in advance, you can hire and you can teach your teams to have a wider perspective. So instead of, oh, I'm writing the code, prepare everything for me to write the code, and then take the code from me and do whatever you want, I don't care, widening their perspective and changing the ownership from I'm writing code to I'm working on this end to end, changes things dramatically. And then you can see whether people can actually handle things end to end, or they're refusing, they just want to write code and they don't care.
Like I said, I love that. You actually have this workshop, you write on Substack about thriving in engineering. Why is that? Why do you do that?
Because everything I know is because of amazing online community, open source community. I grew up in a small town in Ukraine. I didn't go to a big university. I didn't study at Stanford, or I don't have higher education at all. I'm self-taught person. I read immense amount of books, articles. I looked at the open source code. So I feel that it's my responsibility to give back. That's the primary reason.
Cool. And you've been doing this for a while. What are like the biggest lesson, if I ask you for your top 3 lessons that you just keep repeating or feel like you keep repeating over and over, what are they?
For my top 3 lessons for engineering leaders would be you have to get your hands dirty now, and you have to find time. You have to make time to experiment. B, you have to, in this era we're in, you have to be more like a junior engineer. You have to throw away everything you know, and you have to be trying all the cool and new things until something sticks. And number 3, don't believe that we don't need engineers anymore. Don't fire your senior engineers that are skeptical. You can show them the way by being an example.